All right, so we are going to jump from Italy back up to the north, and we're kind of, as we leapfrog back and forth, we get to see how artists influence one another stylistically. And so we finished with the high Renaissance in mannerism in Italy. Now we're going to move up into Europe and see a new contender, Spain, come into play. So there's a music link here for you guys just to sort of enjoy if you want to play through there, another sort of visual cultural aspect to this lecture. But what I want to focus on in this is, why all of a sudden rise? Well, we really have colonialism happening, right? We see countries kind of in a land grab as they're discovering. So that's why we're going to see Spain come in and play with this. We're going to see France. We're going to see Germany and, of course, Netherlands, Bruges area. So why art then? Well, if you're claiming these countries and you're claiming land, right, you need to show your power, right? And if you're going to show your power, the best way to do that is through the artists that you commission, right? You want to show that you have the best artists, you have the most wealth, and they're going to also show you with that wealth. So that's what we're really seeing going on. We're also, realizing that the Reformation's happening, and so we're beginning to get to where the church splits. And so with a split, what will happen, right, is that now we're going to have those who believe in a certain way images should be made versus others. So we also see humanism is sort of filtered and spread throughout all of now, not just Italy, but up into the north as artists are going back and forth. Some of what I really like to start with in Germany, we see this altarpiece and sort of the traditional style of making an altarpiece. But what is different is that what Grunwald has done is add a lot of this emotion and maybe even some of that humanism idea. Now, if you've ever seen the movie Monument Men, this is the piece that's sort of the focus of that movie, and like George Clooney and Matt Damon, I think, are in it. But during World War II, it was taken and hidden by the Nazis, and so trying to get it back, and it's pretty amazing that we ever did. And so here we have it. It was traditionally commissioned for a hospital specialized in skin disease. And so if you take a look, and the YouTube link has a better sort of close-ups of it, that the skin is just full of splinters and marred and cut and just destroyed. We see the stretching of the body. You see the expression of the hands. There's nothing comfortable about this piece. Even the individual Saint Sebastian over here who's shot full of arrows, like everything about this screams pain. So if you're an individual suffering from a skin disease, you may look at this and say, well, maybe I don't have it so bad. Another German artist who really breaks the mold of being considered a northern artist and sometimes lumped into the Italian Renaissance is Albert Dürer. He traveled a lot to Italy, and so therefore he picked up a lot of the styles. He's greatly influenced by Bellini, the Italian artist, and after seeing his works, his style definitely changed. He's very famous for his prints and his printmaking style. When we look at those, you've probably seen some of them before, but this portrait itself is imitating a Byzantine Christ-like figure, which you probably could have seen in the churches in Venice and such, as the Byzantine style made it that far. But he's a man who's very also interested in clothes, like Leonardo da Vinci in ways, who loves his flashy clothes, his hair. He does a lot with his hair in his pieces, but he also has these signatures, right? One signature being the AD and the year, the other Albert Dürer and what it is, and then the portrait himself. He was very concerned about copyright issues, right, and people ripping him off. So he signed his work a lot. Here's one of his prints, another signature. Sometimes they'll even be kind of hidden amongst the piece. I think there's one particular piece that claimed to have up to 15 signatures in it, and so that way he could always point out a forgery. Art and society, though, centered a lot on how do you explain life, its follies, and what happens. So there's a lot of reminders of the evils that were going on. There's a lot of everyday sort of talking going on, how they link it to witchcraft or the occult or things like that. But you have to imagine that this time period, the normal age span was 40 years old. Right, so a lot of themes of death, plague, and disease and superstition were a part of their image because that's what they were trying to make sense of. What's what the things they question the most. Something like a natural occurring hailstorm was seen as work from witches, or Eve was even seen as a threat to man, like a vixen, right, a tempting vixen. So that's what you're seeing in artwork like this, and really is this term memento mori, which means remember death. Remember we all die, and artists put a lot of this in there to say, yeah, no matter how rich you are, no matter what's going on, remember you're going to die, right? And so when we look at something like this, we have two wealthy individuals, their friends, their travel companions, and at times, and there's really great history about this piece. It's known. We even see, the spoils of their travels, and shows their wealth, like they can afford these things, so they are well off. But then we see, if you get your head down here to the left and you look at your computer screen really closely, you see this skull that's sort of elongated across there. Very interesting features like that, subtle reminders. I love the abstraction of this, though, and why in a painting that you can paint so specific and realistic, and then you put in this skull that's very abstract. It's very interesting to me. On the same note of interest, we have something like Hieronymus Bosch in the Netherlands, who he's the leading painter in the Netherlands. He's the coolest at the time, right? And so he paints this piece called The Garden of Earthly Delights. It's a triptych, so you're seeing all three panels here, and then a close-up of this section of the painting, just to give you a little bit more of, he definitely has that Flanders sort of style to his work. He's not interested so much in exact, representation or details. There's really no great interpretation of what's all going on here, but we do know that this was painted to commemorate a wedding and given to bride and groom, which if I was receiving this, I don't know if that would be the, greatest gift. I'd say, oh, thanks. But there's a lot of this imagery is just sort of like, hey, remember, do the right thing, because if you fall into all of this stuff, you'll end up going to this place. It's a lot of imagery about sex and procreation, about giving into the temptations of life, and so kind of a larger warning about sin. So that's mainly what's going on in this piece.